Oh hey there, Bruiser Nation! Raise those anchors and get ready to wear the official merch of Bruiser Nation Productions. Visit BruzerNationProductions.KinCustom.com and show the world your love of the Bruiser Nation as you go about your day in style. We have Bruze Cruise podcast and To the Turnbuckle tees, hoodies, jackets, shoes, bags, and even pillows. You heard that right, pillows. That's BruzerNationProductions.KinCustom.com. Once again, BruzerNationProductions.KinCustom.com. And remember, Bruiser Nation, stay good, because I'm always good. Oh, hey there, Bruiser Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Bruze Cruise podcast, the only podcast that brings you pro wrestling for your ears. And we have a very special excursion coming up this week on the Bruze Cruise podcast. We have our G1 Climax tournament coverage continuing this Thursday. But Tuesday, which is tomorrow, May 4th, we are releasing a two-part episode where I'm calling a match, well, calling two matches to be exact, and including a long, lengthy, conversational interview with my good friend, the main man, Jerry Bishop, out of Wrestle Pro Alaska. And you're like, what? Where did you meet a dude from Alaska? Well, he's from Ohio originally, and we wrestled, years and years ago. So you'll hear about all of that. I'm going to call two of his matches. I'm going to split it up into two parts because we ended up talking for like 2 hours. So we'll split that up. And I hope you enjoy this edition of the Bruze Cruise podcast. So raise those anchors. Get ready to take a ride on the Bruze Cruise with our first match, the Spartan Pitbull, NIKOS RIKOS versus the modern day classic Jerry Bishop from Anchorage, Alaska, December 7th, 2019, the iHeart Wrestling show where Bret the Hitman Hart was there to help them get some people in the crowd and, let them know that they're a legit company. And as we join the action, the Spartan Pitbull is in the ring. It's got a legit jacket on, though. I like that. And here comes Jerry Bishop, ready to take on NIKOS RIKOS. That place is packed. The MDC, more of a little bit of an old school kind of a guy. NIKOS RIKOS I have never seen before, so here we go. I actually haven't seen Jerry Bishop in years. But I'm proud of the dude out there living his dream. Probably the only one that I wrestled that is still out there trying to make it. Bow and elbow tie up right in the center of the ring. Jerry Bishop forces RIKOS into the corner. Pushing back and forth all the way to the other corner. Round and round we go, trying to get leverage. Ref is asking for a clean break. Jerry Bishop obliges. Rikos shoves him. Jerry Bishop shoves him right back to a bow and elbow tie-up. And a knee to the side. Clobbered over the back of Jerry Bishop. Hard shot to the ribs. Overhand chop delivered to Jerry Bishop in the corner. And another one by NIKOS RIKOS. Jerry Bishop has gotten himself out of the corner, but he finds himself in the other one. NIKOS RIKOS right on the attack. Another jab to the midsection. And a fourth, I think that's the fourth one. Oh, double overhand chop to Jerry Bishop. That one hurt. Jerry Bishop's trying to shake it off and hulk up. Delivering a chop of his own. Hard right hand to RIKOS. Irish whip into the corner. NIKOS RIKOS tries to jump over. Jerry Bishop saw it coming. Arm drag by Jerry Bishop. NIKOS RIKOS in the corner. Big splash by Jerry Bishop in the corner. Hip toss by Jerry Bishop. NIKOS RIKOS trying to get up and recover. Big body slam. A delayed variety by Jerry Bishop. Taking control. Bounces off the ropes. Hard elbow drop on NIKOS RIKOS. Cover 1, 2. NIKOS RIKOS kicks out at 2. Sitting armbar by Jerry Bishop. NIKOS RIKOS gets back to his feet. Forces Jerry Bishop against the ropes, trying to get a little bit of leverage taken off. Now Jerry Bishop is trapped in between the middle and bottom rope, and a Irish whip, forcing Jerry Bishop to get choked on the top rope. Double axe handle to the face by NIKOS RIKOS. Hard driving knee into the spine of a seated Jerry Bishop. Comes back, hits him with a second knee to the spine. Cover 1, 2. Not enough to keep the modern day classic down. Grabs Jerry Bishop by the hair. Forces him head first back to the mat. Cover 1, 2. Jerry Bishop once again kicks out at 2. That is not going to be enough to keep the modern day classic down for 3. He's got to think of something a little bit more. Jerry Bishop fighting back. 2 hard right hands to the stomach. Bounces off the ropes. Ducks under a clothesline by NIKOS RIKOS. Oh my God. Went for a crossbody. Countered into a double leg splash. Kicks out at 2. There was too much going on. Jerry Bishop kicked out at 2. After a modified code breaker counter delivered by NIKOS RIKOS. 3 hard stomps to the gut. Really working that midsection today is NIKOS RIKOS. Bowing for the crowd. The crowd is not happy. They are firmly behind the modern day classic. Double stomp to the midsection again of Jerry Bishop. Cover 1, 2. Jerry Bishop kicks out at 2. I have been in the ring with this man. That is not going to be enough. Holding onto the wrist, kicks his foot right into the face 3 times, virtually taunting Jerry Bishop in the process. Tries to bounce off the ropes. Bishop grabs his hand, eats another boot to the face, grabs his arm once again. Bishop has had enough of this nonsense. Blocks a hard right hand attempt, delivers one of his own. Back elbow by Jerry Bishop. Firing back clothesline. NIKOS RIKOS back to his feet. Standing enziguri by Jerry Bishop to NIKOS RIKOS. Cover 1, 2. NIKOS RIKOS kicks out at 2. NIKOS RIKOS looks out of it after that step up standing enziguri. Looks like he was going for a bulldog attempt. NIKOS RIKOS is able to counter it. Hard elbow to the spine. Goes for the backstabber. Jerry Bishop able to grab the ropes. Roll up by Jerry Bishop. 1, 2, 3. Jerry Bishop got him. Jerry Bishop got him and gets the hell out of there. A surprise victory on NIKOS RIKOS by Jerry Bishop, being completely aware of his surroundings. getting that roll up and taking care of NIKOS RIKOS. The Spartan Pitbull is pissed. He cannot believe it. Stay tuned, Bruiser Nation, when we come back on part 2 of our interview / commentary edition of the Bruise Cruise podcast with a focus on the now main man, Jerry Bishop. Stay good, Bruiser Nation, because I'm always good.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think like that's how I got my start, considering like a lot of the places that I've been and things that I've done. It's just, I mean, I try to tell people stories like that weren't around, where I'm like, man, if you guys had been around back then, like it was crazy, just the fact that we were doing shows every single week, sometimes like multiple times a week to try to pay for the rent in the building, and I'm like, God, I can't imagine working that much now. It'd kill me.
I know, right? Like, damn. Like, do you remember that 4th of July show at the fairgrounds?
Oh God, I wrestled Bobby Blue on that.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah.
I just remember having a giant crowd for me and Jerome, and the old lady telling him to like chop me again and shit. And then everyone left because the second match was terrible.
God, I want to say like that was the same show that the Braddocks wrestled each other, and Lee Braddock ended up going to like the hospital or something because he like had like bruised ribs, and I remember them bringing the ambulance or something out there to take him.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I was so like, me and Jerome worked so fucking hard. I was dead in that 90-degree heat trying to do a match with fucking my best friend beating the shit out of each other.
And it always works when it's like your best friend. Oh, you two used to just go in there and just kill it, because you guys knew each other so well, I mean, it got to be like that for me, and I would say probably Chris, if you remember, he wrestled as Messiah, and then later on he was Otto. Like, you could just have a match with your eyes closed,
Yeah, I remember him. He was really good, man. And like, I honestly, like, it wasn't even ring time for me and Jerome. I mean, we grew up together, and we did a lot of shooting, like just being drunk and stupid and shooting with each other. So it was almost, we could do anything with our fucking eyes closed. Could you imagine if we had like some of the indie guys that Corey was able to bring in with us then?
Oh yeah,
we could have like crazy. We could have made really something of that promotion. But Corey,
I think so
Corey
too.
wasn't in the right headspace then. He was still trying to be mini Vince McMahon and shit.
No, yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, I wasn't even I know a lot of us, myself included, weren't in the right headspace, but I think, like, if they would have been able to bring in, like, really good indie talent also, that could have, like, helped us all along, it would have been awesome,
Dude,
because everybody would have progressed,
Yeah, because we all we were, I don't want to say we were complacent, because we were always trying new stuff, but we didn't learn anything new, because it was a constant, Ferris wheel of wrestling the same guys, basically.
Yeah, like, we didn't have anybody that was like a legit like veteran, to come in and like be like, hey, I've been working for this many years, I'm going to show you guys this,
And let's be honest, veterans weren't really that cool back then.
Oh yeah, because we were all young. We're like, oh, fuck that. I mean, but even for me, I know, like, I grew up, like, I at least respected wrestling and loved it. And I remember, like, there was another Fed that was within like 100-mile radius like an NWA Ohio or something, and they were booking like, I want to say like Greg the Hammer Valentine and like some other like, you know, legends and stuff. And Corey was talking about it, and Corey was like, yeah, no one gives a shit about those old has-beens. And like, even me at 20 years old, like, you know, and not having much respect, like I looked at Corey and I was like how fucking like you can't say that shit. Like that's just, you know, and being in wrestling now, like if he were to say something like that in a locker room, like with some like veterans, he'd get stretched. But, you know, a lot of people nowadays have like no respect for anything. And it's, you know, I'm almost like now like one of those, I mean, I'm not one of those like curmudgeon-y old like guys where I'm like fucking kids, but I feel like it sometimes, you know. I try to be like in the middle, you know, like young enough to know what's trendy, but, you know, still like, you know, older, because I mean, you know, I can't do the crazy flippy athletic stuff these kids can now. And I know you probably saw it at the show you were on last year, was that like it seems like these kids that are getting into wrestling now are just like, they're super athletic and flippy, but they just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And like when I walk in a locker room and I'm like the biggest guy there, I'm like, okay, now I have to change my wrestling style.
I know that felt weird. Yeah, you're right. Because at those shows, it was like the top guys were doing like Canadian destroyers and shit. And like back then we couldn't even think of how to do a Canadian destroyer properly, let alone give it a shot.
Oh yeah.
Like, we were like, how does Petey Williams do that? And they are small. I was like, you know, I'm out of shape, you know, 37-year-old dad, but like I was still like a bigger dude compared to a lot of them, other than the big hosses they had. Not that some of them weren't cut, but I'm just like, damn, these dudes are small. I expected them to be a little bit bigger.
Like they're short, man. A lot of these guys are so short and tiny. And
like Mason Ryan, like, you know, the dude that I wrestled was like a foot shorter than I was. It felt like I was like, Jesus, what is going on?
Wait, that guy's name, the guy you wrestled's name was Mason Ryan?
Yes.
Like what?
Well, I feel like he was like a tag team with Corey in XWE. I feel like.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, do you remember the Nexus from WWE?
Yeah.
Like because like they had that guy from Wales who was like a Welsh Batista, and his name was Mason Ryan.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's what I'm like. Yeah, like I was on an indie show with that guy in like Shinston, West Virginia, and they had like the Barbarian and Kevin Sullivan and a bunch of other people were on it. And I was in a locker room with that guy, and he was huge. Oh, it was ripped and a really nice guy.
I got the names mixed up. It was Ryan Mason. That's why I thought he was in a tag team with Corey, because
Ryan Mason.
But I got the names flip-flopped, but I think that's probably
it's all good. I mean, well, even still, if it was me, I'd be like, and this is just me. Wait, are we recording right now?
Yeah, but I'll edit stuff later, like stuff that's not
okay.
Necessary.
All right, okay. All right, so say like. Yeah, I don't want to bury anybody I don't know, but I just look at it like, for me, like if I had a name that was too close to like a name, you know, I wouldn't want to like have, you know, I wouldn't want to have that. But then, I mean, in hindsight, I'd like to get rid of Jerry Bishop, but I've had it for so long. I'm like, well, it's just who I am, you know?
Well, but I get what you're saying though, because like, you know, back in the day, I was Travis Orton. I was not Travis Orton when I wrestled, you know, a year and a half ago. I just changed the last name to O'Connor. I was like, I can't do that. Like, why would I can't be associated as Randy Orton's cousin anymore. That's like kid shit. And so I just changed the last name.
Well, and you know, like, and with you, it was, you know, which in hindsight, like, I don't even, looking back on it, like, why did they ever call you Orton? Because I don't think you look anything like Randy Orton.
I have no idea.
I don't know if it was just like your build, maybe.
I think that's what it was, because it was Corey's idea. And I think we have a similar build, so I think that's where
like the athletic, like lanky and lean, like nobody else had anything like similar to remotely athletic back in those days, well, at that promotion.
Wrong. Well, I was fucking working out all the time. And was still never heavier than 180 pounds soaking wet holding a brick. But then I stopped wrestling, get a job at a pizza place, start drinking a bunch of beer. I found myself at 225, and it was gross because I was not in the gym at all.
Man, Jason, when I started, bro, I was, and you were there, like when I started, and I remember Satch used to call me that David Flair looking mother effer. But I mean, I was like, God, I was legit maybe 160, and I wrestled at like 160, 170 for years up until like 2012-ish. I was able to like break 200, and then in the last few years, like I've put on size, and I've really had to work at it, and I've like, like my heaviest I've been was like 255, like almost 260, within the last year.
Dear Lord, I can't even picture you that that's like 100 pounds.
It's insane. Like, I mean, if you remember me, how you knew me, like when we met years ago, and then if you go and like watch any of my more recent stuff on YouTube, it's like, I mean, like I kind of sell somewhat similar, but I mean, I got a beard and long hair, and I'm not like scrawny and emaciated.
And you're not playing a guitar anymore.
No, I got rid of that a long time ago. No fake British accent either. It's well, I actually started going by the Modern Day Classic name for a long time there. I just recently got rid of it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because you told me that like last year or the year before that you talked to Joe about snagging the Modern Day Classic, and then I'm looking at WrestlePro Alaska, and I'm like, it's just Jerry Bishop. Where'd the Modern Day Classic go?
Well, like the commentary team would refer to me as the Modern Day Classic, but I just like really recently, like as in this was probably my first show dropping that. And the main reason it was just one of those things, like I kind of felt that it's hard to really brand that, it's hard to like make merchandise with, a name like that, because I'm like, what is the Modern Day Classic? And I mean, it's like, for me, it's kind of what I am, which is like a throwback to like, the 80s, like a Barry Windham style throwback, like a more of a classic wrestler, which is, in this day and age when you have so many guys doing so many crazy athletic things, it's, me doing something totally different on the card, I think kind of helps me stand out a little bit. But as far as like merchandise and T-shirts and ideas, I was like, man, I really can't think of a whole lot of stuff. Whereas, I got my girlfriend with the Slayer thing, and of course, you got a female, and women's wrestling's so hot right now, and she's a total hustler and is always putting her stuff out there, and she just makes a killing with her merch and all her crazy T-shirt ideas. Like the best one that she has is like a logo that's like of her, like it has like the crown and the long hair, but it's got like a skull, and it's kind of like a spoof of like the band Slayer logo. So people can buy, men and women can both have that logo and wear that shirt, and it's cool. I just trying to, so that's where the Modern Day Classic thing, I was like, I loved it. It really fit me. I think some feds I'll probably still go by the Modern Day Classic thing for a while. But I mean, for like the bigger places and stuff I'm trying to work, I ended up switching it up, and I got a different moniker I'm using now, and it's going to be interesting to see how well it goes over. I started going by the Main Man, like MANE, because everywhere I go, everyone keeps calling me the Fabio looking, it's everybody talks about the hair. I'm like, maybe I can work with this, you know?
Yeah, I could see you working something with that, with the hair being the mane and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Even like a t-shirt with just your face on it and just kind of make the hair a little bit like brighter and lion colored. That might work.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, like, I actually had this guy, he makes really good graphics. He's on Facebook and Instagram. His name's Z-Manzilla. Does great work with like graphics, and he made this logo for me, and it's like it says like my name, like the main man, Jerry Bishop, and it's got like the J and the B, but like the way that the graphic is it's like it's almost in like horsehair. You know,
that's legit.
I'll have to send you the logo.
Yeah,
it looks pretty
you gotta
sweet.
send me that. That sounds legit, dude. I dig that shit. It's so pro wrestling of you to do that too.
Oh yeah. Well, and I thought too, like, because I figured, you know, if I'm a heel, like it's the main man, and I'm doing this Fabio, like, you know, almost like maybe with a little bit of sprinkle of like a little bit of Rick Martel in there from like the 80s, you know, as the model. But I was even thinking about, like, as a heel, having all these crazy ideas, to where I was thinking, like, how would Fabio cut a wrestling promo? So I started thinking about, like, King Booker, and how, like, the King Booker character, he would talk with that fake Regal accent, and then when he'd get angry, he would start, like, talking all hood as Booker T, like, tell me you didn't just say that. Like he was like breaking out of the character with his other character, you know? So I was thinking, as a heel with this like main man, like Fabio type thing, I could maybe do a thing where I talk like, you know, all seductive, like this. But then when someone makes me mad, the whole like white trash Jerry Appalachia comes out, you know? Like, and I get angry and I like break out of it and start talking all like trailer park white trash Jerry, you know, listen here, you ain't gonna talk to me like, I mean, I am the essence of all that is man, you know, like, and then kind of like get back and forth in between the two. And then as a baby face, you know, it's almost like that whole kind of what I already do, like a 80s style baby face, as like with the main, like, you know, I'm the main man. Like, I'm your main man, baby. I'm the main event, you know, like, to where I could still keep, I mean, I'll be a little less Fabio, a little more like just kind of 80s style baby face with the same name, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, no, I get that. Dude, I like that, man. Oh shit, that's good enough to work, especially if you start heel and then let the crowd decide when you turn face. I mean, I don't know how much freedom you get in that decision with the promotions you work with. I mean, it is the indies, so probably a lot.
Yeah,
dude, that would be so legit.
Yeah. It's crazy because it varies. Because man, like some places I go to, you know, because you remember like back in the old XWE days, it was pretty much like do whatever you want, you know. But then there's like places that you go to where, you know, when you're working out there, or even when you're in the locker room, you know, you're not only given a finish, but you're told, hey, like this is the person that I want calling the match, you know, like listen to this person, and you know, I want this as a thing. You know, like make sure you guys do this spot. You know, I don't want to see a match that's like this. And they'll tell you to listen to who you're in there with. And of course they'll give you like a time frame, like sometimes with entrances, without. It varies. And it's really, you know, it's different because it seems like the more you go to like the bigger feds, for me, the more you have like promoters that really have like a vision of what they want. Like KM for Wrestle Pro Alaska, he's, you know, because he's really particular about his product, man. He wants to make sure that he's producing like really good stuff because he wants to have a good brand, and I respect that. And for someone like me, man, like I'm, you know, even though I was kind of a pill to deal with when I was young, like back in the old days, because yeah, I was young and stupid, but I mean, I'm pretty laid back, and you know, I look at it like it gives me a chance to work with like different talent, because he books a lot of like really, really good guys. And I mean, you know, he's the one who's like, hey man, you know, I knew you grew up watching Matt Cross. I'm going to stick you with Matt Cross in your hometown. I'm like, oh my God, I watched this guy, and I played, you know, used to play this guy on the Backyard Wrestling Don't Try This at Home for PS2 video games, and I'm wrestling. I mean, I'm not trying to be like a mark, of course, and I'm totally cool in the locker room. But, you know, when you get the opportunity to work with like world-class talent like that, you know, it's something that, you know, you just, as they say, like, you just sit underneath the learning tree and just, you know, try to absorb as much. But, you know, like there's some guys, and I'm sure like if you look back at some of the guys we used to wrestle with back in the day, like they couldn't handle having that kind of direction. Like somebody saying, okay, this is what I want for a finish. I only want like, you guys are going 8 to 10 minutes and listen to this guy. Like a lot of people in wrestling are like, oh, well, wrestling is my art, and I can't have a match where I have to listen to somebody else. You know what I mean? Which is crappy, but you know, I think that's the difference between like somebody who's trying to be a pro and trying to absorb as much about wrestling as they can, and somebody who's just like in wrestling for what they can get out of it personally, when, you know, you have fans that are paying to be entertained, and you've got to like learn as much as you can and respect like the fact that this promoter, he or her is like trying to run a business, you know what I mean? But you know, still be able to enjoy it like a fan. It's such a hard medium there.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, like, you're not wrong, because there's probably like 5 of us that took constructive criticism well, and that would have like succeeded in that type of environment, because we all could have used a little bit more direction. And you can learn, even if it's like a dude that's only been wrestling for 2 years, but what if those 2 years has been spent all around the country nonstop? There's a lot someone like that can teach you, even if you've been in the business for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But if you're stuck in your own little area and haven't broken out, so to speak, from your home state, there's all kinds of independent wrestling that it's different everywhere you go. I mean, you know this.
Oh yeah, man. Like, that was me, bro. I mean, I was one of those like 40 milers for a while, like where back in Ohio, like I didn't want to go, you know, farther than this amount of distance. But now, like, I'm in Alaska, and then just moving and going to a different area, like, completely changed my mindset, you know, to where, like, I mean, in Alaska, like this WrestlePro Alaska tour we did, man, we put, oh my God, like 20 hours on the road. Oof. I mean, because this Alaska is 2.5 times the size of Texas.
Jesus.
And it was like through most of Alaska. It was like doing a 5-hour drive to like this town, you know. And my girlfriend and I, man, like we drove like 9 hours to get to like the first town, you know. So, which is crazy. Like I look back on how I used to be like, oh, I don't want to drive more than an hour or whatever it was, because you know, a lot of places, you know, back in Ohio you can do that. And then I come up here and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll drive 5-6 hours. Or with me, I'm like, okay, you know, I don't have anything going on. I have like vacation time at work and some money, so I'll just fly down to Vegas and train at, you know, FSW under, you know, like the guys like Sin Bodhi and them that are down there. Or I'll go to like Create a Pro in, you know, New York City, or, you know, go to like a place in Jersey like or Cheeseburger School in Pennsylvania, all these different places, which I haven't actually gone to all of them. I've been to FSW and Creative Pro a few months ago, but just to go learn and learn from different people, which is, it's just a total different mindset from like what I used to have in that like small, like local wrestling mindset, which is why I think like everybody that's in wrestling, needs to just at some point just up and move like somewhere really far away and just open their mind up, because it's been really beneficial for me, like moving to a place, closer to Japan than I am, my hometown, but it's really helped me out, I think.
That's wild. Closer to Japan than Ohio. That is wild as hell. I mean, I know Alaska's far, but when you put it into words like that, you're like, holy shit.
I mean, I can't see Russia from my house, Sarah Palin, but it's really close.
It's really close. I mean, I feel you on like that's what you hear from a lot of the greats, though. Like that doesn't really exist anymore, but they wouldn't change it for the world because they learned so much going so far away from home and basically being dependent on themselves and having to make it and grow up and take care of shit while you're wrestling as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, and one thing too is that like it's, I don't know what it is, Jason, but like, when I was young, man, and don't get me wrong, I still love this stuff, but like when we were like, back in the day, I was a huge fan for stuff like RVD and Jerry Lynn, which are still great matches, but there was a lot of high spots in there. And like, as I've gotten older, like just being around wrestling, I've had people tell me like, hey, start looking at things that are like really, really old that no one does anymore. So I'll be watching like a Jack Briscoe versus Dory Funk match, and people will be like, you're watching that old time stuff? I'm like, yeah, man, because you watch these guys, man, they slap on a headlock. It looks like they're trying to rip the guy's head off, and that's just one of the things that I've kind of picked up and adapted over the years is I've tried to take like the little things that I do and make them look more realistic. And like go back and watch some of the stuff from like years ago and bring some of that back, because there's like so many wrestling moves from even when we were kids in the 90s that like nobody even does anymore. And I'll see that and be like, oh, I'm going to bring that back,
Nice. Dude, like I was like, really kind of similar. Like I wasn't really a high spot guy or a hardcore guy, to be honest. I mean, most of my stuff was really based on Chris. I still am a huge Jericho mark, but I bought all of my work was based off of like him and Owen, and like with little tweaks on the Rock's shit. Like that was it. I wasn't trying to be the lanky guy trying to fly around, and I wasn't trying to get like, I did hardcore stuff, but Joe and them always took most of the hardcore shit when I was in those matches. I stayed away from it all. Like I was never really against it, but it was like, I don't want to be known for that. I want my skill. I'm with you.
And you remember for a while there, like with the old XWE, man, it got to the point where like, man, every match was just blood and guts. And the crowd was just like a bloodthirsty crowd.
Yep.
And that's what one of the things, like people say about Corey, like Corey catches a bad rap for some things, but man, I will give him credit. Like, there was times, and I know that if you were to ask Corey, like right now, he would totally regret it. And I understand why, but I mean, he used to take some crazy, crazy bumps.
Yeah, he did.
Like bumps that were and he'd be bleeding everywhere and be like, man, like, you don't have to do all of that, and of course I know now looking back, he'd be like, I wish I never would have done it. Same. And I know Deacon said the same thing, with Deacon, you look back on the stuff that he did when he was really young, like, Fire, and who was that? Was that guy like Deranged or something like that? Was his name?
So, yeah. God, I forgot about him.
Going through fire and doing weed whackers and stuff. And then, Deacon decided, like, I'm going to start doing, like, more traditional wrestling. But I mean, when you've already put your body through that kind of stuff, you put your body through that stuff. That's why, like, you remember, I don't think you wrestled in the warehouse building, but there was like a second story to it, like above the ring, like above the top rope. And I remember, like, myself and Damian Braddock, like, wrestling him and just not even calling it and just jumping up to the top rope, grabbing a hold of, like, the platform to climb up to the second story and just running and jumping what felt like 15 feet in the air for, like, a running elbow drop. And Timmy looks at me, he just looks up and just moves out the way, and I just eat it with a flat back, like, from that height.
Jeez.
I look at it now, I'm like, I would never do that.
Oh, hell no.
Especially for 20 people, but when you're 19 or 20 and you're like, I can get hit by a truck and feel like I'm fine,
Yeah, those were the days. It really didn't matter. A couple aspirin and you're good to go afterwards. Like, I do wish, like, it's fucking, like, commonplace now to say, if I knew then what I know now, like, that crowd was, like, bloodthirsty to a point, but the people we had in the crowd loved wrestling because, like, they loved it regardless. Like, not when we were at the fairgrounds, they kind of gave up on us, but, like, in that little, like, 2-story area that was right on the main street of Logan, like, those people loved it. I still miss the drunk guy. Those were the most fun parts, dude. Like, arguing around with the drunk guy who only liked the baby faces, but he was always into it. And a lot of our fans were just into it just because wrestling was around. Fuck, I miss that.
Oh, man. It was, and you know what? Like, at the time, I remember some people would get really mad and others would be like, damn it. But honestly, like, it kind of made you a better wrestler. Because, a lot of us were kind of learning as we went. But we'd be in there, and you mentioned the drunk guy, Tony. I remember, like, if you were, like, calling a spot or something, Tony would yell at you from the crowd, quit talking!
I forgot about that.
So, like, yeah, he'd be like, quit talking! So I remember, like, you had to be, because of him heckling you, all of us learning as we went. Because, like you said, we didn't have any veterans to learn from. It was just kind of learn as you go. And you had these fans, these people that were paying their hard-earned money, to go to this every week. And, like, Tony kind of doing that kind of made you better because you had to be a lot sneakier about how you did your stuff with him there. And I just think back to that time, man, like, if I knew then what I knew now, like you were saying, bro, I would have had T-shirts and merchandise because those fans were paying their hard-earned money to come see the same people, and, like, every single week they were, and it was like a weekly thing. Like, they watched Monday Night Raw and they went to XWE on Saturday, and sometimes we'd have, they got to pay the rent, so hey, we're going to have a special Tuesday show too, or the big monthly event is going to happen on a Wednesday. Like, people were paying their hard-earned money to go watch this.
Or a Friday, Saturday doubleheader when I had to work both days. So I had to drive back and forth.
It's crazy. And, like, because, you do a lot of indie shows now. In some areas, I think we're like, because, I mean, the indies are more popular now, which is a good thing, that there's more places to work and stuff. But, a lot of the fans, a lot of times, I feel like maybe it's just a change in the wrestling style, and there's so much more appreciation for the athleticism, because the athletic stuff that people are doing now is, like, so off the charts. But I think in that sense, though, also, and I'm not trying to sound like Jim Cornette or anything, because I agree with a lot of the stuff that he says, but, I mean, like I said, I try to be, like, kind of old school meets new school, you know what I mean? And not like, I hate when I have, like, new school fans and new school wrestlers that are, like, super disrespectful, but I also hate, like, how you have like a lot of the old school people that just bury everything new, you know, like trying to find that medium. But one of the things I think that's lost on the fans a lot of times now, and maybe the wrestlers, is that people don't really work to make an emotional connection with the fans, like, you know, anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's no Dusty Rhodes anymore, you know, to where the people like are just coming to the shows because of what he said on the mic, you know. I mean, I would say maybe Daniel Bryan, as from me as a fan, you know, because you've always got to be a fan. Even if you're in wrestling, you've been in wrestling for years. Like, if you're not a fan deep down, like, you're just gonna be bitter. You know, you've got to enjoy this. But I think like Daniel Bryan, you know, at least when you look at his run from like 7 years ago, like he's like the last guy that I think the fans were really, really emotionally invested in. You know what I mean? Because it's those moments, or like Edge coming back at the Rumble after 9 years, and you see people in the crowd crying, like grown men are crying. You know, like that's what I think is lost on not just the wrestlers maybe, but maybe like the wrestling fans too. Like they're so focused on like, oh man, that was so awesome. Like they did that cool, awesome spot. And there's like not that much like, I really hate this motherfucker, except for MJF. He's the only guy that's able to get away with it, that people are, you know, like in the PC day and age, like he's allowed to say whatever he wants to, and people like want to hate him. And, you know, he's like the greatest heel in the business, in my opinion.
Oh, dude,
but there's like,
I agree with you 100% on that. He really is. He really makes people hate him, and he's so good in between the ropes too. Like, and I think you're right. Like the young guys are so worried about getting their shit in instead of telling an emotional
true, and
story.
It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere. It really is.
And I wish, you know, if like we were talking about Tony the drunk guy earlier, like he made me a better heel. I never got heckled for calling spots and shit, because I was paired with Jerome or Joe or someone that I'd wrestled countless
and you didn't
times
have to call
and
shit.
didn't have to call anything. But like, I would always hear him talking shit to me, and it made me a better heel, reacting to his reactions, and it got the crowd invested because they were getting pissed off because I'm yelling at this old drunk guy. And I think you're right. Like, you see it sometimes where they get emotionally invested. Like Cody Rhodes is really good at getting people emotionally invested when he's invested.
Yes, definitely.
And of course,
he is too. Like
Chris Jericho, and as you said, Daniel Bryan. I think Randy's there too. Like Randy's gotten so much better.
Oh God. Well, Randy Orton is one of those guys. Like, the smart marks, I think, shit on him because of how he trolled them on the internet. But like, when you're in I mean like the smart marks who just want to pop the high spots. But like, when you're a wrestler and you get into it and you watch a guy like Randy Orton is so good. Like, he is excellent, and he makes it look like he's not even trying. Like, Randy Orton could go out there and just go through the motions and be better than like everybody out there. And then when he turns it on, like, it's ridiculous, especially as a heel, like when he's invested. And I mean, I'm talking like as a fan, because I look at it like I'm in no position to critique anybody that's doing better than me. I'm just saying, like, from like a fan perspective, but somebody who's also in wrestling too. Like, Randy is so fucking good at everything, and he makes it look effortless.
He always, like, low key has been. Like, I mean, like, he had to work
from day one,
his mic skills a little bit, like, because he got with the heavy hitters like the Rocks and Chris and Steve for a short amount of time, and they just kind of buried him on the, not intentionally, but they were just so much further along because Randy could go out there half-ass everything and it still look like $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Like I still say, like this day, if I wanted a 5-star match and I had 2 choices, it would be Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton, because I could walk into a ring with those 2 in an hour and they would make me look like $1 million. I'd be gassed in 2 minutes, but that's besides the point. Those 2 could make me look like $1 million, and I'm sure Chris Jericho could too. But those 2 are just, their talent level is off the charts, and it's weird. How like we're talking about it in the world of wrestling as a whole, talk about those 2 and the different journeys that they've had to be in that like upper echelon of never doing anything bad at this point. Even bad stuff is great when you're talking about Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton.
Yeah. And those are guys like, can you even, I really can't even think of like a Randy Orton or a Daniel Bryan botch. You know, off the top of my head.
I don't think I can either. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's really no holes in their game, especially, I mean, I love Randy, but especially Daniel Bryan. Like, who doesn't love Daniel Bryan? That American Dragon, man, he is such a beast.
Well, and that's why, like I was saying about how people were emotionally invested, like that whole storyline where like leading to him getting the belt and then losing it, and then kind of, you know, the whole you're a B+ player and everything that led to WrestleMania 30, like the people and, you know, and the crowd chanting Daniel Bryan the whole show, like, and the people they just got, I mean, he was always a phenomenal technical and well-rounded wrestler. And he had charisma even back in ROH that I think a lot of people like really didn't see. But like at that point with WWE, you know, I mean, he had proven he was a really good wrestler, but, you know, he hadn't got the chance to really showcase what he could do character-wise. But then people were just so invested in him and knew like this is a good guy and he's a really good dude and he really, really loves this. And that's how I think he was so beloved, you know, by the internet and by all the fans, and how people just were really, really invested in him. And that's, like I said, I think that in a lot of ways, and I don't mean, I mean, because of course there's some exceptions, but I mean just like overall, you know, like people, and I get, you know, that it's not like the 80s when wrestling fans were like little kids and stuff. Or, you know, aside, the NWA was always more like older fans, I thought. But, you know, I think that, I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I think that, you know, people just don't get as invested, like emotionally, like they used to. Like you look at some of the angles and storylines that happened when we were kids, like you and I can still talk about them. Like, you know, like Jake the Snake Roberts, as hokey as it was, like having this snake bite Randy Savage, you know, like, and the kids and people screaming in the crowd. And like, you know, you can look back on that and stuff and still, or like WrestleMania 8 with Roddy Piper and Bret Hart, when like, you know, they had that babyface match and he's like going to smash him in the head with the freaking ring bell. And the crowd's like screaming, like, don't do it. And then he's about to lose his shit and flip, but then he like stops, and then they wrestle the match, and then Roddy, you know, Bret beats him, but he pulls him in and like hugs him. Like, you know, like everything, you just like kind of felt more emotion back in the day, if that makes sense.
No, I feel you 100%. Cause like, as you bring that up, I start thinking like one of the greatest cage matches I've ever seen was Bret and Owen. And it wasn't because like it was a 5-star classic. It was the emotions involved and the little things they did that where they would like when Owen dove for the cage looking like a 12-year-old. Like it was just the way they do things. Like I don't even think you could pull like it, no matter how hard you tried, You couldn't pull a WrestleMania 13 double turn these days. Nobody cares enough.
No.
No one can get people
you can't
invested.
Book that.
No.
Yeah, like exactly. Like you couldn't book a double turn like with two over personalities like that. Like you can't book that. I mean, maybe if you're Paul Heyman or something, but I mean, even you got to have like the right ingredients. And like that moment of Steve Austin, like with the blood going down his head and into his teeth, man, like that's like etched in our minds. You know, think about, you know, how many great matches we've had, like lots of athletically really great matches in the last 10 years. But, you know, I try to think back on like what's been like a real moment to where like you've been invested, where you've been like legitimately angry, or you've got a grown man crying, you know, like watching it, you know what I mean? Or like you're excited and, you know, I mean, I think we still have those moments, but they're kind of few and far between. And I think if people can like bring back some of that old school, like, you know, getting people emotionally invested and add what they can do athletically, I think the sky's the limit for the business. And, you know, I think also what I think we need too, the wrestling business, and tell me what you think about this, is like a little bit more legitimacy in that, like, you know, people do a lot of cool moves, but I think maybe they kind of push it too far with the whole, like, I kicked out of this and this and this and this. And, you know, the holds that we're doing don't look super crisp, but then like people can turn on UFC and see like the baddest dude in the world getting choked out in like 3 minutes or submitting to an arm bar. But in wrestling, it takes like 85 pile driving flips, you know? I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying though? Well,
they're taken away from the big moves because people keep kicking out of them. I see exactly what
exactly.
You're saying. And it's like,
I mean, and yeah, like I'm not saying don't be athletic. I just think that like sometimes we push the disbelief too much to where people are like, I'm into it, and I'm like, okay, now that's a load of crap. He would never kick out of that in real life.
Well,
you know?
So this earliest example, like from recent shows, was Stand and Deliver. I thought Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole was a great match, but they pushed it too far. They wrestled way too long, and Adam Cole just beat the shit out of Kyle O'Reilly with everything that wasn't latched down. And after a while, it took me out of it. And I love both of them. And Kyle O'Reilly used to be an MMA guy, as we all know, but it's like there's only so much you can take. Like, I'm driving to Jacksonville next week to be in Blood and Guts, and I'm super excited. Like, I can't wait to watch it live because I was going to go to Jersey when they were going to have it, but I'm a little worried they might push it too far. Like, I think the 10 people in it can keep that from happening, so not one guy's taking too much punishment. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, don't pull me out. Just keep it. With somebody like Chris Jericho, I think a good chance that they won't like push it so far that you can't believe it. But in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, don't push it too far. And they don't. And back to the kicking out of everything, there's only like 1 or 2 protected finishers in the business right now. And they're both in AEW. The One-Winged Angel and the Judas Effect. I can't think of anybody else that's so protected. Maybe the Claymore kick, maybe. But even that's pushing it. Like, because it took 3 to beat Lesnar, and I don't think anybody's kicked out of it, but that trend that Austin and Rock started got way out of hand real quick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and it added drama, but I mean, like, you know, I kind of remember being a fan even back in like, you know, 2001 when Austin was a heel and he was feuding with Kurt Angle. And even as a fan, like, I remember, you know, when they were feuding and Kurt Angle was babyface, and I want to say like Kurt Angle, I might be exaggerating a little bit. It might have been like 3, but I for some reason in my head, I remember in my memory, I remember like the commentary team saying like Kurt Angle kicked out of 5 stunners, and I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the stunner was like the most over move in wrestling, you know.
And now everybody's kicking out of it, even when it's like I can see it when for example when Kevin Owens does it. He doesn't do it as good as Stone Cold Steve Austin, so maybe it would take more than one. But that thing's devastating if you really do it to somebody. I mean, you're dropping their throat on your collarbone and your shoulder blades. That's going to be devastating, and it should be kind of sold and finished that way.
Yeah, I mean, what you know, and a lot of the moves I think are like that too. And then you just kind of tell the fans like, oh, well, this doesn't really hurt because you know you can kick out of it all the time.
Like the
whereas like
Destroyer.
yeah, well, I mean, would you say that maybe Bobby Lashley's hurt lock is kind of protected right now? Because I haven't seen anybody break that. No one's broken that, have they?
Yeah, that would be in the same conversation. The hurt lock, definitely. It's super. I mean, he won the title with it. It's super protected right now.
And he went over McIntyre too, and that's what at Mania, and that's one of those things too. Like, you know, I remember Joe Napier and I were talking about this like back in the day. Like, you know, even though we were both Hogan fans as kids growing up, you were Joe talking about like, you know, being on a playground and being, you know, 7 years old and, you know, doing a leg drop to your friend and they get up, you know, and you're like, okay. I mean, of course, you know, you probably didn't connect, you know, on a shoot, just, you know, the right way, but talking about then, you know, Bret Hart's is the man and you're doing like Bret Hart moves, like you put somebody in the sharpshooter or you put somebody in some of the holds he was using, and you're like, okay, wow, this is real. Like, this actually hurts, you know. And as a little kid, I try to have that mindset because, you know, I think like you know, I have an 11-year-old son, and I know if my son is wrestling around with his friends and, you know, in his mind, he might know wrestling is, you know, fake or entertainment or whatever you want to call it. But if a kid that's like really big puts him in a shoot freaking full Nelson and is cranking that neck, you know, it's going to hurt him. And then every time he sees Bobby Lashley do it, you know, especially with how big Bobby is, he's going to be like, oh man, like he can't get out of that. Like, cause I know that pain. I know what that is, you know. Of course, I'm not advocating that every little kid should go out and try to emulate all the moves they see on TV.
No,
but that's one of those
idea.
Like, you know what I mean? I mean, we did it, but
I mean, yeah, we turned out, you know, just fine.
Yeah, we turned out just fine. But you know, like you look back and I mean, you know, I was put in the sharpshooter as a kid and realized this shit hurts. You know, like you could break somebody's back, you know, if you really cranked it in. So like, it's believable that you would end a match with it, you know, like the same with the full Nelson, which you're like, oh, that's not flashy or spectacular. Like, motherfucker, that's real, you know. Brock Lesnar, and that's what I think is good about the MMA influence to an extent is like, you know, Lesnar doing a freaking key lock or a Kimura or whatever you want to call it. You know, you watch UFC and you see people get their arms broke, you know, and people know, okay, that's real. You can, you know, you can really mess somebody up with that. Or if you learn how to do it and you do it on your friend, you're like, oh my God, you're going to snap my forearm in half, you know?
I'll never forget the first time Joe put me in the sharpshooter. We were still shooting back then. I mean, this was like freshman, sophomore year in high school. And I mean, I'm fucking 90 pounds or some stupid shit. And Joe's always been big.
Yeah.
My knee locks up on me and he wasted no fucking time, showed no quarter, and threw me in the sharpshooter so fast. And I tapped out like,
oh, that's Joe.
Like, it was the worst pain ever. I'll never forget that day. This one dude was like watching us, like, cause we were just out in his front yard. You got to put some weight on or something. But like, Joe had one of the best sharpshooters I've ever seen. Like, of course, Bret Hart and Owen Hart's have the best ever. But Joe was so good at emulating that stuff and doing it perfectly.
I would agree 100%. And he probably looked like a 38-year-old man back then. Like,
yeah, he did, for sure.
Oh, dude, like Joe had like that Arn Anderson like going on, because I didn't realize it as a kid, but like in like the Four Horsemen days, like in the 80s, like Arn Anderson was in his late 20s, but he was like super bald. Like Joe totally had that going on. Like this dude forever looked 38, 39 years old. Yeah. Like he looked that way he looked the same in 04 that he does now, But I mean, he had a great sharpshooter. Another thing, and I'll say this too on the indies, Joe had one of the best pile drivers that I've ever seen. And like Joe is that one guy, looking back on it, I've taken neck bumps from people. I don't want to put them out there publicly because I know, now I know we're recorded, but there were some people that's all good. Like there were some people I know that from other regions of Ohio back in like the 2007-ish or whatever that came down to the XWE that Corey had booked. And it wasn't that Corey booked anybody bad or anything. It's just, these guys were supposed bets, but I took an Emerald Fusion from a guy and he straight dropped me right on my head. Like, I mean, and there were other guys that I had worked with in other places, like, oh yeah, this is my finish. It's some crazy neck, and they dropped me on, and I'm lucky I didn't break my neck. I do have neck issues.
Yeah, dude, you are lucky. I mean, Joe was the only person I ever trusted to pile drive me. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because he did have a perfect pile driver, and I trusted him and no one else.
Oh yeah,
I was not going to take a pile driver from anyone else.
And he would jump with it too, and it could be taken numerous ways. The statement that he made. But Joe used to always say, "You've got to have a big pile driving ass." And Joe would say, "I have a really big ass that's good for pile driving," which, now looking at it now, like that could be taken a whole lot of ways.
Out of the context of wrestling, it sounds terrible.
Yes, out of the context of wrestling, it sounds really inappropriate. But, in wrestling, it makes perfect sense. And I know whenever I started using the modern day classic moniker, Joe was trying to get me to use the pile driver. And I even said to him, I was like, Joe, like I've never given one, and I honestly don't trust myself to do it, because I know the repercussions of what could happen if you do it wrong. I am a little bit more trusting now with the pile driver. I had a guy in Kentucky get like super pissed off because I wouldn't let him pile drive me because he was trying to practice it. And we had like a big conversation, and he gave me one and was like totally fine, and he had been a veteran for years and had told me like, well, you just got to check somebody's credentials. And, now I'm more, I guess, like, I mean, I'll take a pile driver now. It's just one of those, like, I'm not naive enough to be like, oh yeah, you can pile drive me. And then you find out that you got booked against somebody that lied about their training and is going to drop you on your dome and doesn't know what they're doing and things like that. I mean, even if you're in a situation like where you get booked against somebody that might not know what they're doing, you've got to learn how to, like, I guess, protect yourself. And I don't mean in like a shoot way, just kind of like, being cautious. But if anything though, like, I think in today's day and age, you kind of avoid those scenarios with not working for shit feds, which I did for a long, long time. I had the mindset of, like you hear the old school guys say, you learn in the ring and learn as you go, which is what I've done a lot, which has been helpful. But a lot of times, like if you just work shitty feds, like bigger feds, they're going to be like, this guy they're not going to look at you because they know you might work this Fed, which might book some guy that ends up being a pedophile, or they might book like half-ass trained guys, or guys that aren't trained at all, or guys that, you know, are like dangerous, are going to come to the ring like drunk and stuff, you know. And it's like, you know, that's why I've been trying to, the last few years, instead of taking a whole bunch of bookings like I used to do, I've looked at it like, if I'm not getting a decent booking, I'm going to spend my time and money like going to just learn and train somewhere so I can learn that way. And if anything, like if I'm going to a place that's like super legit, they're going to remember me and they might consider using me, so I can kind of like break into working at some of those, you know, higher level indie feds. And I run into less situations of, you know, I'm not going to name the Fed in West Virginia. I'm just going to say that it was in West Virginia. No disrespect to West Virginia indies, but like being in the ring and finding out that like this Fed, like knowing